there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Regina, and in today's video we're going to do some harvesting. It is only April 23rd, but the garden is already giving, so I want to show you guys some of the things that I need to get out of the garden and into the kitchen so that, you know, my family and I can eat it. But before we get into that, thank you guys. We just hit 350 subscribers. I know to some people that's not a lot, but to me it is. That is really awesome, and it's really exciting seeing this channel grow, and I hope to continue to bring you guys really great content from the garden so that you can learn how to grow your own wonderful garden, and also just inspiration. I love watching gardening videos, even on stuff that I probably would never grow, just because I find them interesting and I like to see what people have going on. So thank you guys for that. Also, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, because by the time you get to the end, you're going to be so entertained and excited you'll probably forget. So just do it now so you don't forget, and of course that helps this video and this channel get out to more gardeners. Okay. So the first thing I'll be harvesting today are strawberries. So here are the strawberries I have harvested. Let me stand up so you can see that. Not bad. I am pretty excited about it. They are looking great. Some of them, let me get up close. There we go. So some of them are probably a little overripe. So I've harvested strawberries. This is not the first time I've harvested this season. I harvested a bowl of them actually just about a week ago. And some of them were sweet and some of them weren't. I don't know if that is because they weren't quite ripe enough, so I've been leaving them on there just as long as I can, but also I don't want to attract birds or anything like that that might want to eat my strawberries before I do, but I have been leaving them on there as long as possible, so I'm interested to see how these taste. Some of them were a little overripe and I'll have to toss them, but most of them look great, so we'll see. If they're still not sweet, if most of them still aren't sweet. I've had some that are very sweet and then just some that are like meh. So if they're still not sweet, I'll have to do a little research and figure out what it is. But if you're watching this and you have any tips on how to make sure your strawberries are sweet, I mean obviously this bed has full sun, but if you have any tips for me that could be helpful, then leave those in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys are doing or ways that you're able to make sure that your strawberries are sweet. So next thing I'm harvesting is cilantro, right here from the same bed as the strawberries. Okay, so here is cilantro. That is a lot of cilantro, but it was growing wild and taken over, and I don't play those kinds of games. It was shading out some of my strawberries, and also I have some onions planted in this bed. It was shading some of those out. But also, cilantro is gonna bolt when it gets hot, so I wanna take advantage of it now. In case you're wondering what I'm gonna do with this cilantro, I will be dehydrating some of it. Cilantro is really tasty dehydrated. Then you can just sprinkle it on anything where you want a little more cilantro flavor. And some of it, I actually have some tomatillos in the freezer that I harvested late last season. I wanna say maybe October, maybe even November. But I just put them in the freezer because I didn't have what I needed on hand to make the salsa then, and I just didn't feel like it because I made tomatillo salsa all summer. And so I'm gonna pull those guys out of the freezer, defrost them, and make some salsa verde with, now that I have cilantro and I have onions in the house, so I'll make some salsa verde with them. I don't have peppers. Oh, actually I do. I have some hot peppers in the freezer, so I make some salsa verde with the rest of this cilantro. So some of it I'll be dehydrating, some of it I'll be turning into salsa verde. All right, next up, I am gonna harvest some green onions. The green onions, I'm not necessarily harvesting out of necessity. I'm harvesting them because they are toppling over and they're just growing so fast, which is great. I've been giving my onion bed plenty of nitrogen because that's what those onions need to grow the layers now, because they'll start bulbing very, very soon. They may have already begun that bulbing process. And so I'm just gonna trim those so that they don't flop the plant over and it continues to stimulate new growth in case they have not started bulbing yet. So I'm gonna trim some of those and let's go. Okay, onion greens harvested. Y'all, my basket is filling up. But in case you're wondering what I'm gonna do with these, I actually just harvested some of these a week ago. These onion tops just are growing, and I don't ever wanna cut off too much. You know, I don't wanna do anything that's gonna inhibit the onion from growing. And I'm no onion expert. I grew some last year and they did excellent, but I'm still in my early stages, so I don't wanna do anything too crazy. But in harvesting the ones last week, I dehydrated those, and so I don't need any more dehydrated because I have a little, you know, seasoning thing that I keep them in and use them. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna use most of these in the salsa that I'm making with the tomatillos, the salsa verde, because I always put, you know, I put onions in my salsa, so I'll use these green onions, and I bet that will really make the flavor nice. So I'm gonna do that with these, and then I'll set a few aside because I'm gonna cook some some tatsoi either today or tomorrow, and I'll be harvesting one of those in just a minute. And I like to chop up the onion greens and mix them in with the cabbage greens, with the tatsoi greens, and they just, they're delicious and they add a really nice flavor to it. So I'll be using some of those for that as well. And as you can see from this bed, I'll be harvesting more of these, like, you know, very soon. So I'll still have some to dehydrate later if I use what I have dehydrated. So this is a gift that keeps on giving, another benefit of growing onions. And we haven't even gotten the bulbs yet. So next up on this harvest tour, I am gonna harvest a little bit of these garlic greens. I'm gonna use these when I cook tatsoi for dinner, or as, you know, side dish with dinner. And I'm also gonna try putting some in my salsa that I'm making. So these garlic greens are really tasty. My daughters actually come out here and like eat this raw, like not a lot of it, but they'll like chew on it. They like the garlic flavor. It's like, it tastes like garlic. It has a kick at the end, but it's milder. I'm also gonna be dehydrating some of these, but I'm not gonna cut those for dehydrating yet, just because I'll be dehydrating the cilantro, and my dehydrator takes a while, you know, like sometimes like 8 or 9 hours. So the ones for dehydrating, I'll just come back and get those when I'm ready to dehydrate them so that they're fresh. But I'll cut a few off to use in my salsa and to cook with. Now I'm gonna harvest some Tatsoi. This is an Asian green, and it is starting to bolt. Y'all, I have not had the best success with my Asian greens this year. I don't know if it was how I grew them in the small cells and kept them in there too long, or if they just don't like it here. I'm gonna try again next year because they are tasty, but it's starting to bolt, so I'm not gonna do the cut and come again like I was thinking I would do with these. I'm just gonna pull out the plants and eat them. So I'm gonna harvest all of the tatsoi I have here, and we'll be having these with dinner tomorrow night. Aren't these beautiful, y'all? Okay, so it looks like a lot, but it really isn't. See, each one is like this size, and I have, what, 4 of these? And so they're not huge, and you can eat the stalks. So I'll be chopping up the stalks as well, but the leaves do cook down quite a bit. Like, kind of, they cook down as much as a Swiss chard or like a beet green, almost as much as a spinach, but not quite. So all of this would feed, I have a family of 5, a husband and 3 kids, so this will be enough for like all of us to eat a serving with a meal. So it's not actually that much. I like to harvest things kind of as I'm ready to eat them rather than harvesting a whole bunch. So this is perfect for us. I'll get these cleaned, washed, and all of that, and we'll be having them for dinner, with dinner tomorrow. Last up on the harvest is our beets. Now, let me turn this down a little bit. They are, aren't they beautiful, y'all? Look at these greens. Now, I'd love to do a beet harvest video where I harvest all of these beets and I show you them and they're so beautiful and I have like the best thumbnail, but that just does not align with the way I use beets. One, they actually have not all grown at the exact same rate, but also I love beets for smoothies, and that's how I've been using them mostly. I do like to eat them raw too, like the beetroot, just washed and eaten raw. It tastes almost to me like a little bit like a carrot. Slightly different flavor, but like sweet, crispy. I love these. And these are rainbow beets, so I haven't even tasted every variety. But I'm gonna harvest a couple of these that have gotten nice and big, and I'll be using them in smoothies. That is like my #1 way to use beets, because the roots are so nutritious and so are the greens, so they are the perfect addition to smoothies. I make smoothies generally with just fruit and vegetables. I don't really add anything else to them. Sometimes I'll add like a little bit of like steel cut oats, grind those up first, and then add the rest of the smoothie ingredients if I want something more substantial. If I'm having it, you know, like for breakfast, I'm not going to eat for several hours, then I'll add that. But generally just fruit and vegetables. I love them, and so do my kids, and it's a way for us to eat more like raw fruits and veggies, just to add those to our diets in a way that, for me, I kind of like vegetables actually, but for them, you know, they're not always interested in eating a whole bunch of vegetables. One of them is, but the other two, meh. But they will have smoothies. And so I love using beets, the greens and the root, in a delicious smoothie where I add some banana, some mandarins, and some other, you know, frozen fruit, and it just makes a really great smoothie. So I'm not going to harvest all of these, because for me that wouldn't be the best application. I don't want them just sitting in my refrigerator. I'd rather harvest a few at a time and then use them, and then harvest a few more, so that they are always as fresh as possible, because obviously the nutrients start to leave your fruits and veggies the more that they sit out. You know, the fresher they are, the more rich in nutrients they are. So I'm gonna harvest a couple of these. You guys get to see that, and that'll be it. Alright, so here is what we have. This basket is full. You can't even see everything, but we have beets, we have tatsoi, we have cilantro, we have green onions or onion greens, we have garlic greens, and we have strawberries. I will be washing these. I'm gonna get all of these washed, and I'm gonna weigh them. I always weigh my produce, and I have just a little small digital scale that sits on my countertop. I weigh my produce and I track it. I have a garden journal, a garden tracker that I call my pensieve. And if you are a Harry Potter fan, you probably know what I mean. You know, Dumbledore's little gadget where he keeps his memories. But my garden pensieve, I'm gonna weigh and track these, because I really wanna keep good records and just keep track of, you know, what varieties and crops are producing for me. And also I really want to find out like exactly how much food I'm growing in this garden and producing for my family, and of course some of it I end up sharing with friends as well. But if you aren't using a garden tracker or a garden journal of any kind, I recommend that you do. I have a video coming out soon on mine. I'll show you guys exactly how I do it using Google. I use just a Google spreadsheet, but the different formulas and the things that I track, I would definitely be showing you guys that. But in the meantime, I definitely recommend that you do it. You will be surprised at the end of the season. You might feel like you have an unsuccessful season, and then you look at your tracking and you see that you've produced hundreds of pounds of food. So it's a great way also to stay encouraged and not get discouraged whenever, you know, you're dealing with pest issues or things aren't producing like you thought. But this video is not about the garden tracker, so let's keep moving. Alright, so I'll show you guys what this all weighs out to, what I end up with, and I'll be adding that into the video right about here. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so thank you guys for sticking around to the end of this video. I really appreciate you checking it out. If you haven't done so already, hit the like, hit that subscribe so that you'll always know when I have a new video coming out. I think that's the bell notification for that. But, and help this video, you know, get out to more gardeners who might be interested in this content. Until we meet again, have a great one, guys. Bye.